Sick and tired of your love-hate relationship with wine?
Welcome to the Feel It Alcohol-Free podcast. Hi, I'm Coach Ruby Williams.
And I'm Coach Susan Larkin.
We're two former wine lovers turned alcohol freedom coaches, exposing the lies about alcohol.
And giving you, our listeners, the tools to break free so you can feel lit.
And when you're lit, you'll feel healthier, freer, and more in control of your life.
So relax, kick back, and get ready to feel lit alcohol-free. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Feel It Alcohol-Free podcast. I'm Coach Susan. I'm here with Coach Ruby, and we are super excited, as usual, to be here with you. We love doing this podcast so much. And sometimes we come and we're tired or whatever, and oh my gosh, by the time we're done, we're like both so charged up. So we hope that you feel the same way after listening, that you get a spring in your step, you get inspired. And so one of the things we're going to talk about today, alcohol as a reward, which is a huge topic that we both encounter with our clients all the time in groups and one-on-one. But before that, I just want to bring up some feedback we've had on the podcast, which is just so amazing, which is that people are saying that they're getting alcohol free by listening to our podcast. We've gotten emails. I'm 60 days and your podcast really helped me. And also back in January, we created a dry January type program that we called Feel It 21. And we had met several women go through it at 30, and it was amazing. Yeah. It was an amazing program. We're going to do it live at different times during the year, but we also have made it available anytime. You could start today, tomorrow, whenever you want. And maybe you've been alcohol free before and you want to restart, or maybe you're just curious, like what would it be like to go 21 days without alcohol, and you want to try it.
So what it is, it's 21 days of emails from us with specific episodes. So you watch an episode, there's journal questions so you can go deeper with each topic. And there's a private Feel It community that's off Facebook where you can ask questions, get that kind of community feel, support. And yeah, again, you can even just do it as a refresh. You can start anytime. And one of the quotes we got was, my favorite part of the program was the compassion, enthusiasm, and knowledge shared by you both. I love the Feel It 21 program.
Well, one of the other quotes was, I love the Feel It 21 program. Coach Ruby and Susan were wonderful in their teachings and giving us great examples of their own journey with alcohol. Thank you both. So if you've been listening to our podcast, that we share intimate details about our journey, which hopefully helps set you free from shame, blame. And also we always share tactics and tools in every episode. And so that is the things that we share in the episodes in the Feel It 21 program. So we would love it if you wanted to join us and then join our off Facebook community, because the opposite of addiction is connection. And that's where we connect in our community. So today, we don't have a specific question. This is just something we hear from clients all the time. And it was part of my drinking journey as well, is I drink as a reward. Like, I just want one. I just feel like I deserve it. Or I need this reward at the end of the day. I look forward to this at the end of the day, or after I've done this or that. Right. So this idea of alcohol as a reward.
Right. I just finished my taxes. I worked hard today. It was stressful. Or
successful.
Successful, or it's just
like I had a great meeting today and I want to celebrate. So it's alcohol. Or I had a terrible meeting today and I'm stressed out and I need alcohol. Both, right?
Or I mowed the lawn and got all sweaty. I deserve a reward, Yeah.
The kids are all in bed. I finally have some me time. Yeah,
me time. I hear that. Yeah, the reward. Or I have to do the laundry tonight, so I get a reward.
Yeah, it's my reward for like sitting here folding laundry. I get to have my wine. Or It's my reward for making dinner. I pour myself a glass of wine and then I'm making dinner. Like it's my reward for, doing this hard work. Or just the end of the work week. For me, Friday, like in my early days of exploring alcohol-free living, I did pretty good during the week, but Friday and Saturday, the weekend was really hard because I felt like I deserved this reward. My husband calls it for crawling to the finish line of the week. I wanted that reward of my wine time, on Friday nights. Yeah.
Or I'm the mom, we work a lot with women. Like I'm the mom and I have to make dinner, so I get a reward since I'm the one making dinner. So we're going to talk about
or homework time.
Right.
Yeah.
It comes up so often, that word reward. So we're going to dive into that word. Well, first of all, I get it. Like we want to reward ourselves. We want that me time. Yeah. We could call it self-care. We think wine is the self-care. But when I coach with clients in groups or one-on-one, I start to dig in, what is a real reward and what is it that you really want? So in the beginning, you were kind of in the beginning, it might be just on Friday nights, to get the end of the work week. But is it relief that you want? What is it? I ask a lot of different questions, or, we both do similar kind of coaching styles in that we ask questions. What is a real reward?
Right. And turning it on its head is, drinking a toxic substance that causes 7 different kinds of cancer and makes you feel like shit the next morning, a reward? Like, let's think about this. Like we've ingrained ourselves. Our culture tells us this is a reward. But is it really? Like I'm always coming back to, is that really true? We've been indoctrinated to think that this is a reward, and we've trained our brain to think that this is a reward, and it gives us this huge dopamine hit, which rewards our pleasure center in our brain. So there's reasons why we think this is a reward. So it's not like we're dumb because we think this, right? But now we want to kind of turn it on its head.
And we've heard from society, it's in our culture. Culture, we were talking this morning before that, like even from childhood, we get rewards, right? Kids get rewarded when they get an A on a, test, or when you win a game. Like we're getting these rewards, these dopamine hits. But what is a real reward? I mean, is it a reward to have just 20 minutes of this pleasure or relief but then how long? You wake up the next morning. Is that still a reward? So maybe a better question is, what feels good or what's pleasurable tomorrow morning also? Like I love to play it forward. Well, we've talked about that tactic many times.
Yeah. But, because there's nothing wrong with wanting to feel pleasure. There's nothing wrong with wanting to feel good. So it's even asking ourselves, but is this good 24 hours good, or is this just 20 minutes good? Like those are the kind of questions that we ask ourselves, And, you had a good point, Ruby, about, this mindset of work hard, play hard.
Yeah. When you said crawling to the finish line, I thought about that. Okay, so Monday through, Friday, I'm going to work really, really, really hard and then play. This is more the binge drinking. You might be a binge drinker, but like that whole work hard, play hard. But what happens to binge drinkers is maybe just weekend drinkers. After a while, it slips into Sunday night, Monday night.
Starts Wednesday. Wine Wednesday. I know so many people who have a wine Wednesday that they look forward to. And I know for me, if I started drinking on Wednesday, then I would also want to drink on Thursday, then Friday, then Saturday, then maybe I would stop on Sunday. And it just creeps. It creeps.
But why do we have to work so hard that we need this? Like, what if, and we have some tactics and tools, but what if we enjoyed our work? What if we every day, Monday through Friday, while we're working, we check in with our feelings, we check in with ourselves and give ourselves lots of little fun mini, we call it staying above 50%, little dance parties or something, little breaks where you go outside. So because you brought up a point earlier, we drink because we're over functioning, which has to do with this work hard, play hard too.
Yeah. Well, that's what was me So, yes, are you perpetuating this reward cycle? This is what I see with my clients a lot, and I bring it up. Are we perpetuating this reward cycle by saying yes to things we don't want to do, by overfunctioning, and then we reward that overfunctioning behavior with this big dopamine hit of alcohol, and so it reinforces that behavior. So it's like, oh yeah, okay, I'm super tired, but I'll still sit here. And for me, it was when we owned the music studio, it'd be like 9 p.m. and I'm like, okay, I'm super tired, but I'll still sit here and like do all the social media stuff for the studio, but I'm going to drink wine because that's my reward for doing this and because I'm super tired. But that perpetuated that behavior instead of saying, look, I'm too tired to do this. This isn't a good time. 9 p.m. I should not be working anymore. And just say no. So, I mean, when I stopped drinking, I said, oh, if I'm not drinking, I'm not doing that, and definitely not that. Like I all of a sudden was very clear, but that was good, right? Because drinking was in my pattern of over functioning, and I needed to stop that. Or people pleasing. Do we go and do things that we don't want to do, but we get this reward, alcohol, and so that perpetuates this what we call self-sabotage, or the wheel of self-sabotage. So interrupting those patterns, or just turning it on its head again, thinking about it.
Well, what do you hear mostly when you ask clients, like, what is a real reward? When I ask that question in coaching, they literally like have to stop and think for quite a while. And take your time, think about it. And, a real reward is like something that is pleasurable in the long term. I mean, I love this question. What
is nourishing?
Nourishing. Yeah. But what can you drink tonight that makes you feel good tomorrow? It's not about what can you drink that makes you feel good in 20 minutes, but what makes you feel good tomorrow. Some of the rewards that I've heard are like a massage or some sort of spa thing, but oftentimes you can't do that every day, right? Like if we're in the loop of we need a reward for doing the laundry, cooking dinner, get like all the everyday things. If you need a reward for everything, then it can't necessarily be a massage, right? Every day, because maybe that's out of your budget. It's out of my budget. Yeah. But there's so many little things you can do, and we talk about that. What do you do to feel lit? In our every episode, we end with that. You could write all of those down. And we actually built what's called a bingo card list because there's so many ideas of things you can reward yourself with.
Yes. And that bingo card is part of our Feel It 21 program. There's 21 Feel It activities, which is kind of neat to try. Well, what I find with clients is exactly what you said. People don't know. They go, I don't know, because they've been outsourcing this to alcohol for so long. And so it's kind of, we have to start with experimenting. Try this. What is this? How does this feel? Going back to your childhood, what did you really love as a kid? But also going back to this idea of, do we need a reward for everything we do? And how we've been kind of indoctrinated into thinking that, right, in our culture. Again, do we need a reward because we put our kids to bed? Or do we need a reward because we made dinner? If you don't feel like making dinner, then maybe you will feel like you need a reward. But then maybe you have, like me and my husband have this deal where like, hey, it's been a crazy day, like, because he has days he makes dinner and I have days I make dinner. But we have this, we finally had to come to this agreement of, but if we both, either of us has a day where we're like, I just don't have it in me to make dinner, then we get takeout, and that's okay. Each of us gets to pull the takeout card if that's what we want to do. And that's super helpful. So it's like, so then I don't need a reward because I'm like, okay, good. I'm too tired. I don't want to have to force myself to do this thing and then feel like you need this reward, right?
I want to go back to this work hard, play hard in our culture, because not every culture is like this. I have worked I've lived in other countries, and I've worked for companies that were based in Europe, and they are always like, we Americans, okay, so both Susan and I know we have, listeners everywhere, but it's a very work hard, play hard culture. It just really is. And, so when I lived in Sweden, for example, it just wasn't like that at all. In Sweden, it's like a slower pace. I'm finally figuring it out as I age and get older and have lived longer. And maybe, but it's just a slower paced life where you notice the simple pleasures.
Yeah.
And it's actually it was like, I remember the year I lived there, it was so relaxing to not be go, 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 and have time for yourself and take real time for yourself. What is a real pleasure? And I would love for you guys to write down, like, just take some time. You probably don't know because you've been, like Susan said, outsourcing this to alcohol. But what are you could write a list and ask yourself, what is pleasurable? What is replenishing? What is nourishing? What else comes to your mind?
Yeah, I think that's amazing. Yes, that other cultures don't have that. And again, back to the point of like adding things in during the day. Like I noticed I was even recently, and I've been alcohol free almost 5 years, but I was noticing I was putting some of my pleasurable things like reading, I love to read, to the end of the day. And then one morning I was at like, when you're on your Kindle and you're like at 90% of a book, you know what I mean? And I was like, why am I waiting till like 9 p.m. tonight to finish my book? It was in the morning and I had some time and I'm like, I'm just going to sit down with a cup of tea and finish my book now. But why is that so weird? You know what I mean? But like, do something pleasurable throughout the day. This idea of leaving the past. Can you cultivate pleasure throughout your day? These mini rewards, through all of your, senses, like through like putting some aromatherapy on when I'm working and smelling the beautiful smells, or putting a pretty candle on, or I don't know, like, midday, making sure I take a walk because that helps me with my stress level so that I'm replenished. It's about, so thinking of it from a perspective of nourishment, replenishment, pleasure,
Because we can bring up now, it totally makes sense, but we can bring up now, if you are working hard all day and not giving yourself any self-care or any breaks, or not, I hear often, I remember when I was in the corporate job, I wouldn't even take lunch. Oftentimes I'd work right through lunch. Right. I would barely take bathroom breaks. I would just be at work. And you really get through what's called decision-making fatigue. By the end of the day, from making decisions, from putting out fires, from just communicating with your coworkers, it really, really can. You lose what's called your willpower tank. And from just making decisions all day long, you're more likely to then just find the easiest way to dopamine.
Yeah.
Easiest way. And so really what I've learned, and I think you too, Susan, is that what should we call it? Like, staying above 50% and checking in with yourself all day long, giving yourself if you want to call it reward, but we want to actually, we were talking this morning, what if we don't use the word reward anymore? What if you take that word out of your vocabulary and change it with pleasure or self-care or replenish or nourish? It's just because that word reward, I think, might be connected to wine or alcohol. It was wine for me and Susan, so we talk about wine a lot. But just remove that word. There's certain words that I like to remove from my vocabulary, and that could be one.
Okay. So what can you do if the reward is something that's your thing, that you struggle with? And again, it's just back to becoming aware, right? That this is your thing, and actually seeing if you can see a cycle of that self-sabotage, that you're actually over-functioning or saying yes to too many things, or, working through your lunch and, crawling to the finish line, and where you can insert some things that are pleasurable, replenishing, nourishing. And sometimes we just have to start with experimentation. making a list, seeing what works. No, no myth of perfection, just seeing what might help you not need relief. Because is it really a reward or is it relief? Right at the end of the day, too, I think. So, yeah. And really go back and listen, do our Feel It 21 program, get our Feel It bingo card, look at some of the things that we've talked about on this podcast about feeling lit, because these are some things you could try and experiment with to see if they replenish and nourish and give you joy and pleasure, which is really joy and pleasure is what we want from a reward, right? So, Ruby, I'm going to just segue right into the time of what do you do to feel lit? And let's add another one to the list that people can try.
Yeah. Well, I want to go back to, because when you asked me that question this morning, like, what do I do to feel pleasure? And I want to go back to the five senses. We mentioned this multiple times, and some of our guests have mentioned it, but it's so true. Like, and what made me think is the movie Amelie with Audrey Tautou. Have you ever seen the movie? It's been years ago, probably. It's a classic. It's a French subtitle movie, but in the movie, she does these pleasurable things, and it's all about pleasure, like the pleasure of sitting and smelling the cappuccino. She goes to a farmer's market and she dips her hand in the beans. Have you ever done that? Like, like at the bulk beans? Or what do you smell? Like, maybe write down your top. What do you love? I love the scent of vanilla, the scent of citrus, like lemon. What brings you pleasure? Maybe flowers, things that you love to see. I love to see trees and nature. So it's smell and feel, like the feeling of what feels good. Maybe sheets on, or a soft pillow or blanket. What do you hear? I love the sound of waves and water. We're having a big rainstorm right now, and that's why my internet's been a little funky, but the sound of rain, and taste, you can, we put a lot of, I think, on taste, like, and like the taste of things, but I think we could put equal merit or
emphasis
on smell and feel, and seeing. You could just look at nature. You could look at really wonderful images. On my computer, sometimes images show up of, like, what is that? The aurora borealis or something, just something like calming. To me, this is pleasurable. This really does work to activate my five senses, or choose one, What about you, Susan? What brings you pleasure?
Oh, my go-to is chocolate if I feel like I need a reward. But, and I've struggled with that because I've been needing to be on this diet protocol because of some health issues. And so all of a sudden I was like, oh, I don't have that reward of my chocolate because it's not on the list. And that's okay, because I could look into that and go, why do I feel like I need a reward? Do I feel like I need a reward because I'm adulting and these are things I need to be doing in my day? Or do I feel like I need a reward because I'm over functioning? Because I still fall into those patterns, even being alcohol free. And my reward is not wine anymore, but was I using chocolate too much, and so it's been a good experiment again to find other things. And like, again, I mentioned before, like, hey, what about reading your book at lunchtime? What about reading if I enjoy reading? And why am I putting myself last, my pleasurable needs last, and going, oh, I can only read my book once I'm in bed at 10 p.m.
Yeah.
Like,
and I thought of one more reward too, because we were thinking all morning. Is my Wordle. Okay, my New York Times games, like Wordle and the spelling bee, all those New York Times games. But so what those are reward. Now, things like video games, it's almost like it's a game,
it's
right?
It's a pleasure center thing. Yeah.
And so I started to recognize that it was it was almost a bit of an addiction feeling. Not that it's negative, because it's just fun. It's a fun game.
Yeah.
But I would want to do it first thing when I woke up. So what made me think of it is that I switched this. Now I do what's really pleasurable first thing is the meditation. That's so like calming for my brain. I love meditation. So instead of the grabbing my phone and getting that kind of it's really like a dopamine hit.
Still artificial.
Video games, artificial. So now I use that as my reward. So something like, I get to play on my phone, one of your games or social media, but it's timing, right? I don't do it for very long. It's to do all those games. It's maybe a half an hour, but it's my like half an hour me time. So there's lots of ways you can explore.
Yeah, and you get little rewards when you get it right. You're like, "Ooh, I got it." I haven't done it in a while, and I was really enjoying it. Yeah, it's the ing activities. It's hobbies. Like we've outsourced all our pleasure and all our hobbies, and all I did was go to wineries. That was my hobby. Drinking was my hobby, and so when we become alcohol free, coming into what are other things that are enjoyable, knitting. Playing pickleballing for me, that's a reward. It's fun.
Pickleballing,
and going
is
and
that an
playing.
ING?
It's fun. I made it an
puzzling.
And, puzzles, doing puzzles if you like that. Yeah. Painting, writing, listening to music, singing. And a lot of times we say, okay, if you're struggling to make a list, go back to your childhood. Under 10. What were the things you liked to do? Because you weren't drinking then.
I would
drawing, coloring,
playing, just playing. So when I know I've shared this with you before, but when we women, my sober women and I go into the ocean every Sunday, we are laughing hysterically and it feels like play. So where can you put more play in your life?
Yeah. So laughing.
Yeah.
And finding a funny YouTube video to laugh is so enjoyable.
Yeah. And if we go back to work hard, play hard, what if we don't work so hard, but we put a little bit of play so that we don't have to play so hard? And what else is play? We could, play isn't always alcohol. I mean, we thought that, but play is what makes you really laugh, like you just said, like funny cat videos or
work less hard, play harder. Because we probably have too little play in our life as adults. We just don't play anymore, and playing's so fun. That's why kind of getting into a game, like I've never been a sporty person at all, but getting into this pickleballing has been fun, I have to make sure I keep it fun and not get too competitive or down on myself if I'm not playing as well as I would like to. And I've really been working on that. For me, it's a good game if I do these 4 things because those are the things I'm working on. And then if I don't win, I don't care. Yeah. Right? Yeah.
So if we wrap this up, reward is a word that let's try switching it around and using different words: replenish, nourish, pleasure, and really try to find more pleasure or replenishment throughout the day so that you don't need some big relief. It's just your day. If that makes sense. So this has been
I love it.
Fun. And what a great episode. So good to connect with you. See, I feel amazing.
I know. Now I feel lit from
we feel lit.
Yeah. Hopefully you feel it after listening to our podcast. So that's what we're hoping for. We have heard that, and we're so honored that you've taken the time to join us. We love hearing from you, so we'd love to hear it. If you haven't reached out, email me or Ruby, or there's a little place for feedback on the podcast in Buzzsprout where we host our podcast. We would love to hear from you. We really would. I answer every email that anyone sends me personally. I'm not that famous or anything. So no, I love hearing from people. So
I do too.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for listening. Okay.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to Feel It Alcohol Free Podcast. Do you have a question you'd like us to answer on the show?
All you need to do is head over to Apple Podcasts and do 2 simple things. Leave a rating and review telling us what you think of the show, and in that review, ask us any questions you have about breaking free from wine or living an alcohol-free lifestyle.
That's it. Then tune in to hear your question answered live.
And remember, do something today that will help you feel lit.